This week on Unapologetic Uplift.
None of us parents know what the heck we're doing. There is no manual, there's no instruction guide, there's no holy grail. What is supposed to be the happiest moments of our life aren't always the happiest, and they can be really, really challenging.
Forgive yourself for what you did when you were in survival mode.
The real work is not being a perfect parent, it is being a present parent.
Get ready to rise above the noise and unlock your true potential. Welcome to Unapologetic Uplift, the podcast that's all about keeping it real and helping you live your best life. Buckle up. Get ready to learn, grow, and evolve with us on Unapologetic Uplift. New episodes released weekly.
Welcome to Unapologetic Uplift. I am your host, Kim Staples, joined by my wonderful co-host, Ianthe Mauro. Welcome. Let's just get this out of the way. None of us parents know what the heck we're doing. There is no manual, there's no instruction guide, there's no holy grail. And as a mom of 6, 5 biological, 1 stepchild, the absolute best parenting advice that I can give you is do not take parenting advice from anybody. Trust your intuition.
And that's the end of the episode. That's it. That's all you need to know.
Mic drop.
I was thinking, let's breathe into that for a minute. Trust your intuition. Oh, my beautiful parents listening right now. I had a stack of books. So when you said there are no manuals, there are a lot of them, but they're all crap. I mean, that's the truth. That's the elephant in the room is there are so many. I remember in my first pregnancy, well, I'll back up and say, bless you, mother of 6 children, and now unschooling and homeschooling your children. I'm so impressed with what you're doing and how you're following your intuition, Kim, and we're going to get into that. I want to let everyone know. So I am biological mother of 2, stepmom of 2, and I also am a godmother. I've been asked to be a godmother a few different times, which I take very seriously. And I've even been called a fairy godmother to some of my friends' children. I was a nanny before I was ever a parent. And in the years of being a nanny, I learned a lot about what not to do as a parent. And then I had 3 miscarriages and I thought, oh, I don't know if I'll ever have my own children. And then I did have my son and then I had my daughter. So as a nanny, as I also taught mommy and me classes. So I've been exposed to a lot of children and a lot of parenting ideas and a lot of parenting books. And like I mentioned, I threw them all away. And I will say there is one book that I recommend to parents, only one. And it's Siblings Without Rivalry by Dr. Sears. And the reason I like this one, first of all, Dr. Sears and his wife, I think her name is Martha. I might be getting that wrong, and I apologize in advance if I did. Fact check that. They're parents of many children. I want to say they have 8 children. I cannot remember. It's been a long time since I've looked into this because my children are now 26 and 23. And I'm talking about this happened. I got in touch with this book when I was pregnant with my daughter in 2002. So just to give you some context why I'm not remembering everything. Hi, menopausal brain. But what I will say is what I remember and why I recommend this one always to people is so they're parents, but Dr. Sears is also a pediatrician, a doctor. His wife is also a nurse and a nurse practitioner. And in their many children, they have so many different, they have a child with Down syndrome. They have a child on the spectrum. They have so many different neurodivergence and neurospiciness and loveliness and different kinds of children. So it's their personal experience as well as their professional experience. And that coming together for me is where it rang true. And here's why Siblings Without Rivalry is a great parenting book, in my opinion. It taught me so intuitively, because we both say all the time, Kim, we have to follow our intuition. Intuitively, when a child, I'm going to ask you this, when you see two children fight and one really injures the other, hurts the other, who's the first one you run to?
I'm
What
going
do
to
you do
run to the
first?
one that's hurt and make sure that they're okay.
Okay, well, that's what Dr. Sears says. That's what his book says. But I'm going to tell you that some people listening to this run to the kid. Let me show you an example. So you see this kid does this to your kid. There's often a first response of, stop it, let
Right.
go,
Okay. Yeah.
don't do that, take it away, right? Which is going first to the perpetrator. And what I love about this book, Siblings Without Rivalry, is that yes, you can, some rivalry is very natural and has wonderful learning qualities to it. But
Absolutely. It's how we
so
learn
I
to
don't
negotiate.
exactly, but there are ways to do it without it being pitted against and jealousy and these things that actually become toxic where one child is favored or certain behaviors are favored over others or right. So what I love about this book is it taught me what you just said, Kim, because you're so fucking brilliant already with your parenting and you already know this. You go to the child that's been injured. And when they take it a step further, you actually completely ignore the child that was the perpetrator. So the kid that hit, let's just say one kid hits another. The kid that hit gets absolute, they're blocked out right now. And you go straight to the kid that was injured. And you look and you say to them, are you okay? How do you feel? Where does it hurt? And you don't talk about that kid. You don't say, where did they hit you? What did they do to you? It's not about them. It's about the child. So what you're doing is, they explain, is that you're teaching them empathy. You're teaching the child that hit empathy because before 7 years old, empathy has to be learned. At first, it's just, and especially like when you're at age 2, everything is mine. Your body is mine. I can do whatever I want with it. I'm
Yeah.
2,
Yeah.
right? So they don't learn that yet. And what I love about this Siblings Without Rivalry example is that you go to the child that's been hurt, and then that teaches that other child, well, I don't get attention for hurting, but I actually get attention when I am hurt. And actually, I need to pay attention to when someone's hurt, just like my mommy's doing, because that's teaching them empathy, and they see how how the response of the child is feeling soothed and comforted, and everybody wants that. So I love that one. That's the only one I'm going to recommend. All the rest, burn them. Back to you.
Yeah. See, I think that parenting books do serve a purpose. And I think that it's great to learn about all kinds of different parenting strategies. But at the end of the day, nobody should know your kids better than you. And while I hear lots of different parenting strategies all the time, some of them resonate, some of them don't. And I'm going to take what resonates and what feels good in my body to me, and the rest I'm going to leave behind. So when I was really young as a first time mom, so I had tons of books too, and I really clung to the opinions of those that went before me. And I think it actually can do more damage than good when we aren't just trusting our intuition and we're just saying, oh, this parenting expert said that I should do it this way, because they don't know our individual children and what's best. And I have received really terrible advice from so-called experts over the years. My eldest son struggled with mental health and addiction, and a lot of the professional advice that I received was basically walk away from him and let him figure it out for himself, because to do anything positive was enabling him. Obviously, there were things that could be enabling, but no positive attention, no love, because that just positively reinforces the bad behavior, which really couldn't be further from the truth. It was actually loving him unconditionally that was ultimately what got him to get the help that he needed and saved him. So a lot of people are well intentioned, but their advice is awful. So
It's true. And you bring up something so tender, which is, I think there are so many different seasons and stages of parenting. And the season and stage of a parent when you're parenting a child who has an addiction, and the season of parenting a child who's 0 to 1, or a toddler, or a young adult. They're all such different stages. And I want you all to be gentle with yourselves, parents, because each one comes with its own massive challenges, smacks you in the face, and is your greatest teacher if you allow it to be. And I'll say that the 0 to 1, if you just survive that first year, I want their first birthday party to be all about you because you did it. It's so hard. And they're also different personalities. Like some people say, I love babies. I love when they're preverbal and I just want to hold them and nap with them. And that's my favorite stage. And I think you've maybe said that to me before, Kim, too. I'm not
I
sure that you
do.
love
Yeah, I
babies.
did. I did. I love every stage and challenge that comes along with parenting. But yeah, I do love the infant stage so much when you can just hold them all day long.
And I'll
And I
tell
know
you,
that that's not to shame anybody that doesn't love that stage. I know that it comes with its unique challenges, sleep deprivation, all the things. But to me, that wasn't hard. To me, that was the easiest part of parenting when they're babies and they don't talk back and don't have opinions.
and you can dress them in the cute outfit and have them match you and they don't care.
Yeah, for sure. And they're just so cute and it just goes so quickly. I think that's what it is. You blink and it's over. And you never get any part of parenting back, any stage. Goes by quick, and
Yeah.
although the days can feel really long, the years fly by.
And I'll say it's interesting because if I'm being, which I will be, this is Unapologetic Uplift, and we're all about being brutally honest with ourselves first and then honest with others. I don't love the newborn stage, the little stage, the 0 to 1, and I'll tell you why. For me, those stages were very hard. I was alone. I had very difficult births, which ended both in emergency C-sections and some complications, including an inability for me to walk. With my second, I couldn't walk. I had a back injury from the emergency C-section, and I couldn't put any weight on one of my feet for several months after. So I was hobbling. It was so hard. And then I'm so into doing everything natural and breastfeeding on demand. So I was getting no sleep, was trying to recover from massive surgery without drugs because I didn't want to contaminate my babies through the breast milk. And then so it was a nightmare for me. Even though, yes, they were the cutest thing in the world, and all I wanted to do was stare at them all day. But the reality is, it was very, very hard on me, on my body, and I remember bringing my son, my firstborn, home from the hospital after the emergency C-section, and he had been in intensive care for 5 days, and I was extremely worried for him, and I had complications, and I bring him home, and the man I was married to, who was their father, who I'm not married to now, haven't been since 2009, he was a workaholic and never home. So when I say I was alone, I technically had financial support, but I never had a co-parent. Never. Not for 1 second. And I'm not exaggerating this to be mean or angry with him. I'm just telling you the facts. So I was there alone with this brand new baby who had come out of intensive care. I was broken from this emergency C-section that was horrific to my body, and breastfeeding on demand and barely sleeping and not caring about sleep. And I remember having him there, and I was laying on the couch lengthwise, and my knees were up, and I had him against my knees, like, so he could see me. We were face to face, and my knees were like his little lounge chair. So I had my knees up, and he's like lounging there looking at me.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I get this wave that came over me that was so intense. And I start crying. And I thought, your real mom is going to come pick you up and take you away from me.
Aww.
I don't deserve this. And I think it was the rawness of the surgery, of being open like that, the rawness of the reality of how intense it is to have a life in your hands, how long my journey had been to get there. I had him at 29, but I had my first pregnancy at 25, second pregnancy at 26, not knowing if I was going to be able to have a baby. and having been married at 23. So it was this long road. And I just think that imposter syndrome could not have been bigger than it was in that moment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that with my first. I remember Mother's Day, actually. I had my son in early May, and I was 17 years old when I had him. So I was just a baby myself. But I can remember he was born on May 7th, and Mother's Day was like May 10th or 11th. So I can remember just getting hit with this wave of like, you are completely responsible for this human's life, and just spending 3 hours crying and so scared. But fortunately, I was able to snap out of it and just be like, okay, this is what it is. And then with my second, I had an emergency C-section, and he was 13 weeks early. So it was very, very traumatic. So that wasn't a fun experience in the beginning either. He spent 3 months in the hospital in the NICU. So yeah, loads of compassion for anyone that is experiencing difficulty in that stage, because I know that it isn't easy, and there are all kinds of challenges that we can face. What is supposed to be the happiest moments of our life aren't always the happiest, and they can be really, really challenging. And then we take into consideration things like postpartum depression, which I did experience with all but the last two. It can be some of the hardest days for people. So definitely want to offer compassion to anybody going through that, and empathy. Definitely see you, and things do get better if they are hard now. Not that parenting will ever be easy because it's just not easy, but the times do get better. If you are struggling in the beginning, know that postpartum lifts, and you will be able to sleep again eventually, and things do improve.
What helped you the most then? Or maybe you didn't have something at that point, but because you've had multiple children, you said you didn't feel the postpartum in the last two. So what was different? What was in place for you that you think made that possible for you to not go into that?
I was in a different relationship. So the first three were with my ex-husband, and I was in a very toxic relationship. I can't say that he didn't help at all. He did more damage than good, because while he may have changed diapers or helped me when I demanded help, there was also emotional abuse and being put down. With the younger two, they were with Adam, and he is completely hands-on, amazing father. And I was a lot more mature. I was 32 and 34 when I had them. So just better equipped, emotionally mature, more emotional intelligence, and a way better support system, way better off financially as well.
That does help too. Yeah. I think, and then I look back and I think, what saved me, I would say I didn't have postpartum depression, even though I had an absent partner and other issues, because I did have an amazing support group of women who were like-minded parents. And I found a few of those groups. So I found one, we had this beautiful place in Santa Monica called the Pump Station, which was for breastfeeding mothers to gather, and you could go there whenever you wanted. And there was a room where women would just go in there and be breastfeeding and talking and hanging out. And that was wonderful.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And then I highly recommend anybody finding something like that. And then I had a group of women, we had gone through prenatal yoga together, and we ended up having a weekly date on Wednesdays. We would meet in a certain park. And then we started doing a thing where once a month we went to each other's houses for a big lunch, and we would have we actually ended up having fun things like a woman come in talking about infant massage and showing us how to do that. And we had a woman come in to talk about nutrition, and we just really utilized each other to lean on. And all of us had an absent partner pretty much. None of us had a very involved We were all women who happened to have husbands who were workaholics. That's one thing we had in common. And it really helped to have that group. So I would say way better than any book I could recommend is find a parent who's doing something. It doesn't have to be the same exact parenting. And we're all, I think, figuring it out as we go. But
Totally.
at least one that isn't judgmental of the way that you're trying parenting, and find those people and be around them. And you don't have to, I hope you don't have to do this alone or think that you have to prove anything and do things alone and be some sort of superhero. You're a superhero for bringing life into this world. That's it. Full stop. You don't need to do more than that and carry it all by yourself. I don't think children are meant to be raised in a bubble. That would be my advice to any mom, to find those other moms that you have anything in common with. It doesn't have to be everything, and lean on each other.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Take anybody's advice with a grain of salt because everybody has an opinion. Your parents, the lady at the grocery store, the gurus. You're always going to be given often unsolicited advice. Don't give unsolicited advice, people. Please, if you have something to share, ask permission. And if the answer is no, keep it to your damn self.
Yes. And if you're listening to this podcast and we give advice, it's not unsolicited. You're listening to our podcast and it's Unapologetic Uplift. So we're allowed to give advice all day long. And we might throw down some advice and we might not.
Yeah.
But
And you don't have to take it and we won't be offended.
we won't even know. The truth is, we have no idea whether you're listening or taking advice. I want to bring something up, though, Kim, because of our Elephant in the Room season 2 vibe. I would like to share out loud something that I'm not proud of that I've done as a parent, because I tend to. A lot of people have said to me, I'm such a great parent. And I think because the road was so long for me and I came to parenting in such a conscious way because I'd had always wanting to parent and I had high standards for myself around it, that sometimes I think there's this misconception that I think of myself as the perfect parent, or I'm such a great parent and I've done such a great job. And I do have amazing kids, so maybe they're proof of that. So I want to share something really bad I think that I did as a parent, and it's uncomfortable, and I'm going to share it as an example of what we're doing here on this podcast. So what I'm really uncomfortable with and what I think is not good is that, and it makes me emotional, is that during my divorce, when I was dealing with autoimmune disease and I was so uncomfortable in my marriage and I knew I had to leave and I had to be the leaver, and that was so uncomfortable for me. I had the 2 children and I've been trained in my voice. This voice kept coming in. You can't break up a family. You can't break up a family. That's selfish. That's awful. And yet I knew it was wrong to stay in that marriage. And I was suffering so much that I had to show my children how to take a stand for your health and well-being and spirit by leaving their father. And I did it. But here's the part. That wasn't the bad parenting part. The part that I think I did wrong, that I'm really mad at myself for still, is that during that leaving, in order to do it, I lost a lot of the listening power to listen to my children. And I ignored a lot of things that they were saying and doing during that tender time because I couldn't handle it. And because, period, I just couldn't. And I feel I lost some of those years of being present with them, which was so important to me. So in doing something that I needed to do to save my own life and ultimately wanting to show my children what it was to live authentically and safely, with or without a relationship, I lost some ability to listen to them. And I will tell you a little example that's a funny one. My daughter and I still laugh about this. We were driving. I was taking her to school one morning, to middle school. And we're driving along, and I'm absolutely not listening to her. I am in my own bubble, driving her to school and thinking about I actually had to go to a mediation appointment that day. I was thinking about what I was going to possibly say and how I was going to be. And I was thinking about the love of my life who I'd reconnected with. And how I was going to see him later. And I had so many grown up thoughts that I wasn't listening to my daughter. And she was going on. And she said, Mommy, if I stuck my hand out the door right now out of this window and a car went by really fast and it cut off my arm, would you go through red lights in order to get me to the hospital? And I wasn't listening and didn't hear what she said. And my response was, because I knew she said a question, and I said, perhaps. And to this day, she starts laughing. And to this day, she reminds me that saying, if my arm got cut off, would you go through red lights and speed to get me to the hospital? My response was, perhaps. We still laugh, but that is the example of how much I wasn't listening. And she caught me and she called me out.
Well,
yeah. Back to
Let
you.
me just say that you are not alone in that. I don't know anybody that has gone through a nasty divorce and has been able to be their best selves. We tend to be in survival mode at that point, and it's not fair to the kids. Obviously, we wish that we could do better, but when we're in survival mode, it's impossible to be conscious and present. It is not possible. And I know I have very similar feelings about when I went through my divorce as well. I was at my absolute worst. And the last thing I was conscious and present. I was not at all emotionally available or what my kids needed. And I was numbing constantly, literally at times, for a large portion of time. I was bed rotting. So I would go to work. I was in a functional free state where I would go to work and come home and go straight to bed. I wasn't cooking. I wasn't cleaning. I was neglecting my children because I just had nothing in me to give. So I encourage you to offer yourself compassion and to forgive yourself for that, because I know you. Oh my gosh, my cat keeps jumping up here. She's not taking the hint.
I was wondering what's happening there.
Yeah, so I know the type of mom that you are. I know the type of person that you are, and that wasn't you.
Oh, thank you. And luckily, I have children who I can say this to. I can share all of this with them, and I can say to them, I am so sorry that I wasn't present. And yeah, and I also want to offer this to any parent listening. Please know that you get to be perfectly imperfect doing this, and you can still clean it up. This is the beauty of being human and learning and growing and working on yourself and being honest with yourself and honest with your children. You get to get it wrong and mess it up and go back and clean it up and take responsibility for how you messed it up, not because you want them to fix you or tell you that it's all okay, but because it's the right thing to do. And it's part of the healing journey, in my opinion.
You mentioned being conscious and present, and conscious parenting, I believe, is the way to parent. So not taking other people's advice, not to say completely ignore anything anybody has to say. Sure, take it in, see if it resonates with you. But when I say conscious parenting, I would love to know what conscious parenting means to you. To me, it means being present, being regulated, being able to regulate your emotions, having a regulated nervous system so that you can actually be present in the moment. Of course, we can't be present and in the moment with our children 100% of the time. And of course, we cannot be that when we're going through some of the hardest things we'll ever go through, like a divorce. And having the willingness to repair, like you mentioned, is that right? Because it's not about being perfect. We're never going to be perfect, but taking that radical self-responsibility and, like you said, how you've apologized to your kids for that time and ensured that they knew it had nothing to do with them and just everything to do with you and what you were going through and your inability to be your best in that moment because you were in survival mode. And I've done the same with my children. And I believe that is one of the biggest keys to parenting, is that repair. We all make mistakes. We're human. We're never going to get it right 100% of the time. But like Ianthe said, just owning that and really apologizing and doing the repair without making it about them.
Whew, yes, I'll tell you what I think conscious parenting is, and I want to just say, I'm going to give a quote based on what you just said that I will probably repeat all over the place. Forgive yourself for what you did when you were in survival mode. Just like Kim just reminded us. Forgive yourself for what you did when you were in survival mode. Just do that right now.
And
And
it's
thank
not
you for that.
easy. It's not easy, right? Like it really isn't. We're not making it sound like, oh, it's not a big deal and just brush it under the carpet. No, recognize where you were at, recognize you made a mistake. The same, I've had to apologize to my kids, and I was not at all what my kids needed. One of my children were alienated from me because I was not what he needed in that moment. And I've had to and continue to work on forgiving myself every day. And I don't have a relationship with that son. So it would be very easy for me to be really hard on myself and really hate myself for that. And I have gone through periods where it has been like that. But at the end of the day, offering yourself the compassion you would offer your child.
It's a beautiful thing to say and do, and you practice that. And yes. And so to answer your question, when I say conscious parenting, I literally mean you are doing this on purpose. You're not falling through space and oops, I became a parent and I'm now, I don't care and I don't know and I don't. So kind of the opposite of conscious parenting is just falling and tumbling through without taking stock of what you're doing, why you're doing it. So a conscious parenting vibe is this: asking yourself all the time, am I showing up in the best way I can for my child? What does my child need? What do I need to be the best parent for this child? That's conscious parenting.
That.
Okay. And every single child's different. I thought I got really good at parenting with my firstborn. I knew everything I did for him did not work for my daughter. And I had to learn all over again, be a completely different parent. In fact, I just heard Gabor Mate, the dear Gabor Mate, who I love, he just was saying that no children born in the same family to the same parents that grew up in the same house have the same parents and the same experience. They
Oh,
don't.
100%, 100%. And that is one of the things that my son that I don't have the relationship with has resented me for so much. I was 19 when I had him and 32 and 34 when I had the younger two. And he has told me many times that I am a better mom to them than I was to him. And I say, of course. And I've explained this to the older children. I was a kid when I had you. I was emotionally immature. I always did my best. I can say that with complete honesty. In every moment, I always did my best with what I had at that time. And I always loved my children unconditionally. But I was emotionally immature. I was completely dysregulated. I was in a constant state of anxiety. My mental health was not good. And I did not have any of the tools that I have now. So naturally, I would be a better mother now. Not to mention, we learn from each child and all of the mistakes that we've made and what works and what doesn't. So to parent each child the same would not be right because you have new perspective, new knowledge, new tools. You're not the same person. And I don't know about you. I do know this about you. Actually, when we know better, we do better.
Mm-hmm. And I think it also it goes back to something that I really love that I'm seeing a lack of. And there's kind of a joke that this was like Gen X, we're the last generation that does this. I don't think that's true at all. It's coming back. I'm telling you right now. And that is curiosity, the Socratic method, really being open to observation and learning. And that's why, so if we stay curious rather than one size fits all parenting, we got it from a book, we're doing the same thing no matter who our kids are. Okay, that's not conscious parenting. And that feels, and go ahead and try it. Let me know how that goes. And then just stay curious, asking, what does this child need? What do I need to be the best parent for this child? What's happening here? Wow, that's rather than, you're not doing what your sibling did and I don't understand it, and just the frustration. And that's also where it can be nice to have other people around you, because you're going to see so many different kinds of kids when you have groups that you are involved in and they also have kids around the same age. You're going to see, wow, okay, my kid isn't the only one that does that. Or maybe your kid is the only one that does that. And then you have even more compassion for yourself because you have something so unique that there is no playbook for any of it. So I think the curiosity is so important, and for everything, for our healing, for our finding mentors, for everything we talk about on Unapologetic Uplift. If we stay curious and we don't pretend to be a know-it-all, so much opens up, so many possibilities. And it's just, I don't know how else to be.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm a different generation than you. I'm a millennial and curious. So I think it's bullshit that
Exactly.
it's a generational thing.
I know it is.
And also, I think one of the best things that I could have ever done as a parent is let go of control. Your children
and tell us
are
what
not
that
meant...
looks like. Give us an example of letting go of control, because that's one that I think, yes, please tell us, give us an example.
Yeah, so we naturally want to control. And I think a lot of us grew up being controlled by our parents. You have to do this. And if you don't do this, there are going to be punishments and consequences. And it's my way or the highway. I'm the adult here and you are the child. So it's going to be my way, with no room for negotiation or hearing the child. It's looking at your child as a human being and not expecting them to be mini adults. Okay. This drives me absolutely bananas. So many parents have higher expectations of their children and their ability to do things like emotionally regulate and be on their best behavior in every moment when they can't even do that themselves. It's like, why don't you try asking your child to do something instead of telling them that they have to do that? So I guess letting go of control is just that, allowing them to have opinions, allowing them to call you out on your shit. And that's a hard pill to swallow, I can tell you, because I encourage my children to do that with me. If I have mistreated them, if I have done something that has hurt their feeling or disrespected them, they're allowed to tell me that. They're allowed to say, that really hurt my feelings. And I don't like when you talk to me that way. And they're 7 and 9.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And an example of relinquishing control can also be, it's again, it's so different at every stage of children, but I'm thinking back to when my kids were young and it was that divorce time. They wanted to go to a summer camp that was 8 weeks long. Now, I grew up where we never went to summer camp, and we had it was called enmeshment style of parenting. So we were all one thing. We did everything together. There was no question. I never even had sleepovers. People would come sleep at my house because I didn't leave my little pod. And I've worked to not have that for my kids. I want them to have autonomy. I want them to be able to feel good about making their own decisions. But when it came to, Mommy, we want to go to this camp that's 8 weeks long, everything in myself said no. I wanted to control that summer. I wanted them with me. I didn't want them away for that long. I didn't want them to do it. However, I know they're their own beings. They have their own paths. They both really wanted to try it. And I thought, look, if it doesn't work, they'll come home and I'll pick them up in a second. They know that. So I'm not going to go, if you make this decision, you're forced to stay the whole week, 8 weeks, even if it sucks.
Yeah.
So that was really hard for me. And that was me relinquishing control. And they went, it became one of the best things they've ever done. And they went summer after summer, and they really, it saved them in so many ways from some really difficult summers when we were going through divorce and life was changing and moves were happening, and actually ended up being such a blessing because they had such an amazing experience, and they're still close to the friends they made there are just friends for life, and it was
I
great.
love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, because my daughter is actually asking to go away to summer camp. And I feel
It's
the
so
exact
hard.
same way.
I don't envy
I'm
you.
like, ugh, like, how about a day camp where you go for
I know,
the day?
really? I
And I pick you
know.
up. And I've told her that we'll consider it. And we do not do sleepovers. And that is one thing that I will not budge on.
Talk to us about that. Tell us why.
I help people heal their core trauma for a living. The amount of trauma that stems from children's sleepovers is just not worth the risk for me. To me, allowing your child to sleep at a friend's house is a safety risk. I do allow certain, not all, but certain family members, not that they have slept anywhere other than my mom's or Adam's dad's, but one of my cousins and I have agreed that we'll let our kids sleep at each other's houses because we have grown up together and we have very similar parenting styles. And I have known her my whole entire life. So I trust her like I would trust my mom. I don't trust my children's friends' parents. And it's not because they're terrible people and I suspect that they're going to do something awful to my children. It's that in sleepover situations, and I mean, there is that fear too of the adults in the home. Of course, there are lots of horror stories of that. But as somebody that helps people heal core trauma, the most common thing I hear about shame and guilt people carry from childhood stems from things they did at sleepovers, being unsupervised because they sleep in the same room and stay up all night, and they do things that they would not otherwise do if there was adult supervision. You can use your imagination. I'm not going to go into details. And then they hide that and they bury it and they go their whole entire life with this guilt and shame that they carry around the thing, and it affects their self-worth. It affects the way that they view themselves, and it makes their life so much more difficult than it ever had to be. And I'm just not prepared to take that risk with my children. They are allowed to go for play dates at people's houses, and one of my daughter's friends is having a slumber party for her birthday coming up in a month or so. And my daughter said, oh, she's having a slumber party for her birthday. And I said, well, you know, our place on sleepovers, you're not going to be sleeping there, but I would be okay with you staying at the party until everybody gets ready for bed. And then I'll come pick you up and bring you home and you can sleep in your own bed. And then in the morning, I'm happy to bring you back to have breakfast with your friends and carry on. This way, you guys will just be apart while you're sleeping and you're not going to miss anything. And you'll have a nice, good sleep in your bed and you'll be happier. And we don't have to worry about anything happening between 9 p.m. and 9 a.m.
Oh, it's so good. And that's, I know, you know, it's also giving our kids language around how to keep their bodies safe and keep themselves safe emotionally. And I'm sure you do that. I taught my kids, and I guess there's some controversy around this, but I taught my kids that their body is sacred and no one is allowed to touch their body without their permission. Even if it seems like it would feel good, you never let somebody touch you without permission. And you always check in with your body. Like, does this make me feel weird? Does this make me feel not okay? Do I feel uncomfortable? And you never need to question that if it does. And teaching them that so that because we can't always be there, and there will be a day when and for my kids, they did go off to summer camp. So that was the day. And luckily, I think my kids came out fairly unscathed. I hope, certainly better than I did. I had some bad experiences. And one reminded, okay, this wasn't so bad. It was in high school and I had a sleepover with my friend, and there was a boy that liked me a lot, and he was older. He was 4 years older. So that's a lot older when you're in high school and someone's 4 years older. He already graduated high school. So he was, I guess, legally an adult. I think I was 15, and I snuck out so I could meet him when I was at the sleepover. And we drove around in his Jeep and made out. And then we came back, and this is great. My friend was jealous, so she locked me out of their house. So we get back from this, and I'm supposed to go sneaking back in, and she locked me out. So I'm alone outside in the middle of the night. It wasn't even that late. It was probably maybe it was 1 a.m. And I'm like, I can't stay outside alone until the sun comes up. What am I going to do? So I had to wake up her family, and I got in trouble because I had to wake up her family to let me in. And she was acting like she slept through it and didn't hear me. And
Oh, man.
she totally set me up.
Brutal. But yeah.
I know.
These are the types of things that happen, right? We don't know what's going on, what the parents are doing. Maybe they're just really deep sleepers. Maybe they don't give a,
Maybe they think it's funny for kids to experiment with things that could be dangerous. You never know what the parents are
there's
like.
so many different parenting styles. And at the end of the day, and like I've had this conversation with my daughter when she asked why she can't have sleepovers. And when I explained it to her, I just said, you're not mature enough for that type of responsibility to be unsupervised for long periods of time with your friends. And I explained that I don't want you to make a choice based on peer pressure or just curiosity because you're not supervised, and then you feel terrible about what's happened and have to live with that. And she got it, and she was like, okay. And a week later, I heard one of her friends say, oh, we should have a sleepover. And the words that came out of her mouth to her friend were, I don't do sleepovers. I'm not mature enough to have sleepovers.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's another thing, right? If you're just a control freak, you might say something like, you're not having sleepovers because I said so, rather than actually telling them the reason why and having an open conversation with them and giving them the opportunity to share their piece. My daughter could have said, but Mom, I am capable of doing this, and maybe one day she'd be able to convince me. And I'm open to hear her out. Doesn't mean she's going to sway me, but
knowing your daughter, she is going to find a way. She's going to start. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, and I've told her we can reevaluate when she's older, when she's a teenager. We can see what type of friends she has at that age, and it's possible that I get to really know her friends and their parents, and we're allowed to change our minds. But at this point, it doesn't work for us. And I don't think she'd be able to change my mind and sway me at this age. But I have told her that we can reevaluate when she's older.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, I love that. And that's conscious. That's an example of conscious parenting.
So please take this permission slip to accept and know that, be okay with the fact that it's okay to not know everything, and to just be present and regulated and commit to being the best you can be.
And please raise your children. Don't let their peers raise them. Don't let books raise them. Don't let TV raise them. Not that you can't sometimes use these tools when you're overwhelmed, but please consciously decide how you're showing up for your kids and get curious about who they are and what they need and also simultaneously curious about what your inner child needs, because I guarantee you, you need the good parent that you're becoming right now to your children for yourself as well. And you
Oh,
deserve it.
yeah. Yeah. And you hit something so good with the peer attachment. It's so common in this day and age for kids to be primarily attached to their peers because it's hard to be a conscious parent in the world that we live in, where both people usually have to work outside of the home 40 hours a week, and kids go to school and sometimes after school care and before school care, and then they just want to play with their friends after school, or we put them in all of these different activities. And then all of a sudden, they're primarily attached to their peers, and their peers become their role model, not you. And then when you start to assert boundaries and say, oh, no, you can't do that, they hate you and you're the worst. It is critical to connect with your children on a daily basis, even if you work full time and they go to school and before and after, and then they go to this. Don't have them in so many things if it doesn't allow you time to connect with them, because when they become primarily attached to their peers, it's over. You are no longer their role model. They are worried about making their peers happy. And that is a very dangerous place that unfortunately the majority of children live in these days. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to send so much love out to everyone who's parenting at whatever stage you're in on that parenting path, and just tell you that you're not wrong. No matter how many mistakes you feel you've made, it's part of being human. And the fact that you care and you're recognizing the mistakes means that you're a great parent, and you can be a better parent. You can be a more conscious parent. We can all do that. We can all
Yeah,
be better.
totally.
And start right now. And as we always say, reach out to us in our DMs if there's something that this episode brought up in you that you'd like to further investigate, talk about, comment about.
Please.
Please share that with us. Let us know. We love the feedback. We love to know what's working for you, what isn't, what we brought up for you, and how we can be supportive. Thank you so much, Kim, for another beautiful episode, Unapologetic Uplift. I feel grateful to be able to have these conversations with you, and I look forward to them every week.
Yes, thank you so much. And to sum up this entire episode in one sentence, I just want to say the real work is not being a perfect parent, it is being a present parent. Love you guys so much. And remember to give us a share, subscribe, and leave us some comments. We will see you next week. Thanks for joining us on Unapologetic Uplift. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share the love and tell a friend about us, and give us a review.
Please don't miss a thing. Subscribe to this podcast and explore our sponsors, Objects with Purpose, Eco Luxury Candles, and Divine Activation membership.
Objects with Purpose is more than an eco-luxury candle brand. They are time travel devices in the form of a candle. Light the 3 wicks representing past, present, and future with the validation that you are exactly where you need to be. And if you're ready to raise your level of consciousness and step into your unapologetic, unfiltered, and unbothered era, join the Divine Activation membership at cuttingties.coach/queen. With 3 tiers to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit to support your transformation.
Thank you for your listening and love. We'll see you next Wednesday on Unapologetic Uplift.
Welcome to the Divine Activation membership, a movement for women that are ready to raise their consciousness and step into their unapologetic, unfiltered, and unbothered era.
With your heart, live authentically, and become the magnet for all of your soul's desire.
Grow, connect with your heart and body, release unhealthy and unhelpful thought patterns, heal old wounds, create new neural pathways, and reprogram your subconscious with high-value beliefs so you can manifest the life you're meant for.
Ready to take a break from what's holding you back? Visit cuttingties.coach and join the Divine Activation membership today. Hey, unapologetic souls. I'm Ianthe Mauro, founder of Objects with Purpose, candles that touch the soul and the body. I've released a limited edition 3-wick candle collection in 3 fragrances inspired by a time in history. The Time Travel Collection, because scent evokes memory and lighting a candle can truly transport you to your highest self. Anytime.
Ianthe's candles are truly special. Clean, safe, even for the body as a solid perfume or massage oil, and smell amazing. But what truly fills her heart is empowering others to be seen in their best light.
In 2020, when the 200 stores that sold my candles across the country closed their doors, I knew it was time to give back. I started guiding others to launch their own candle companies and design candles and fragrances for other brands as a way to share light in a dark time.
So why settle for just any conventional candle? Light the 3 wicks in each Objects with Purpose candle. You're supporting handmade in California, small batch, artisanal, eco-luxury, and treating yourself to a memory-evoking evolution. Visit ianthemauro.com to discover your next favorite candle. Let the olfactory experience inspire cherished memories.